What up? What up? Welcome to Birds the Word, brought to you by Old City Sports. What's going on, fellas?
What's happening?
Another eve to a Sunday afternoon football game. We excited?
Doing better than the Braves are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
After last
that's
night, and a lack of sleep and all day at work and coming in to do this, I can't wait for this game to come on. I can't wait for Monday to get the fill started either. So
no right. And the timeline on this timed out perfectly. The way that they actually ended up doing this, it's perfect. They did it. They did it right. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I know. Here's so I won't get phone. There you go. All right. Well, for those of you that don't know, welcome to Birds the Word. Check us out on Twitter at Birds the Word 57. Also check us out at all our Twitter handles on here. We're getting ready to go live with the Instagram page here in the very near future. And I'm actually getting ready to possibly stand up a YouTube channel for us as well, just to kind of throw videos and little snippets in if we want to, dump little reels and stuff off into YouTube and what have you. So you can definitely check stuff out on there. We're gonna really go live with this thing and really kind of expand upon what we got going on. So definitely looking forward to it. Um, well, boys, got a week 6 matchup against the New Jersey Jets, if you will, and it's
I will.
it's a Aaron Rodgers list New Jersey Jets. So I guess it would be a captainless jet, if I guess you could say. So definitely one of them ones that you know I think we could very easily put ourselves into a trap if we sleep on these guys. So definitely don't want to have us roll out there and do something like that. But I'm definitely optimistic in regards to what this team could potentially do. This could be one of them gimme games where they could really kind of figure out how they want to operate for the rest of the season. If they play this right. What's your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Matt.
yeah, I don't want them to fall into a trap game, but I think they've been pretty good at not falling completely into getting way behind or getting too far away from what they wanted to do. So I know last week they started off slow against the Rams, but then second half they played damn near perfect.
Yep.
So I think coming in this week, I think they got the right people in place to where they're not going to be overlooking a team like the Jets because the Jets are still very good defensively. And they still got some players on offense. You got a healthy Brees Hall now. You still have, some really good receivers out there. Conklin's a decent tight end. So they got some players coming on, but don't let that fool you because Zach Wilson did play well last week. Not saying he's going to be coming in to be that, but it wasn't the Zach Wilson that we were used to seeing.
Agreed. Carrington, what's your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, I mean trap game all over it for me. We should just kill them. Anytime you play a bad quarterback, I think your first thought is you're just going to roll over them. But football is a team sport. Patrick Mahomes went through a little bit of a rough couple. Like really the last 6 quarters have been a little rougher for him, but his team's been kind of propping him up, and you kind of saw the importance of Chris Jones with the Eagles missing their Chris Jones and Jalen Carter. Missing Darius Slay, who provides a lot of those spark plays, even despite some struggles. I think you're going to see kind of a more of a closer game early than we would like to see. But I think if the Eagles buckle down early, they can put it away in the first half if they take away some of those chunk plays. And it's a good running team. They're like 12th or something in rushing against the best rush defense in the NFL that just got better from last year. So if we stick to our guns and linebackers keep playing, N'Kobe Dean's coming back. That can only be good for depth. I think we can get out of it unscathed.
Yeah, well, you kind of touched on an injury of a personnel that one of the guys that's actually coming back that's been on injury for a little bit, but unfortunately, we all got the news today that like we're not going to see Jalen Carter or Darius Slay on Sunday, which is very unfortunate. I think Jalen Carter has kind of been high on our list from the jump this season, and with with everything he's contributed up until this point, that's definitely going to be a loss. And Darius Slay, I think we're going to end up feeling the effects of this. It's going to be another one of them games where we saw the blowback that we had when Bradbury was out, and we had to use some of these other guys. Fortunately, they stepped up and they did okay, but Darius Slay was on the opposite side in this regard. We got Bradbury on the opposite side now, so. What level of concern are you guys with that secondary in an already bleak secondary, if you will?
I mean, I think the level of concern with the secondary is apparent. I think they've made adjustments, changing up to really stick to their identity of ball control. To me, tells you everything you need to know. With a high-powered offense, you're trying to really control the ball. Put the brakes on the game a little bit. That tells me everything. That we already were fearing with having Blankenship out really to start a good portion of the year. Now having Slay gone. Now having Bradbury move inside to the slot, then back outside. Signing a guy off the street like Bradley Roby, who is very good. I'd say my concern is still probably extremely low because Roby played well, and I really think that Zach Wilson's going to have to go out there and prove. I don't think he's as bad as everyone's saying. I think he's in a tough media market, not a personality that's really set up to handle it either. But I think that the Eagles will be just fine because I can't see Zach Wilson lining up and beating anybody, and that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to really set up there and outscore, probably put up 24 plus points on the Eagles, and that's not going to happen.
We got
Matt, what's your?
Yeah.
I just this is definitely going to be. It's a good opportunity for some of these younger guys to potentially step up, and it will be one of these opportunities to highlight them in a sense, and potentially find that cornerback that we need to be able to have in some of these situations. So I think a lot of these guys, I think we're going to see a massive rotation in regards to the cornerbacks that are going to be in there. I think you're going to see Ricks. I think we're going to see Goodrich, unfortunately, but it is. I think it's necessary. It's going to weed out the bullshit, and it also potentially, it could highlight somebody that maybe another team would be willing to take on, and you have him as a trade value, and then you add that with a couple of draft picks that the Eagles have in draft capital to pick up a big name corner or potentially a big name safety. There's some options there because some people are going to want to return for what it is that they're getting ready to lose. So
Yep.
A second rate corner might prove to be of value to somebody else that's not necessarily competing for a Super Bowl at this time. So it's there's opportunity there, and this could be an opportunity for one of them guys to show up and show out and basically show themselves out the door in a nutshell. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Still afraid because they have Garrett Wilson over there, who's an extremely good wide receiver, and
right.
They seem to not play a defense where Bradbury's going to follow wherever Wilson goes or whatnot. So wherever Wilson lines up is where he's going to be at. So having Bradley Roby in that slot, I think, is going to help a lot. If he's on the left side, it's going to help having Bradbury over there, and it's going to be between Job and Ricks. And I honestly hope I see Eli Ricks more. I just love the way he plays. He's a very, very physical corner.
Yeah.
He likes playing up in people's faces and getting hands on, and could get him in trouble. But now's the time to learn that we've been talking about it these first 5 weeks, and I don't want to see Mario Goodrich anywhere near on the field. I don't even think he should have even made this team. We talked about that multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But so very interested to see, and I'm interested to see Joe, jump back in there after he kind of got pushed around, a little bit, and see how he reacts to getting punched in the mouth theoretically.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Sean Desai's done a really good job in everything that he's done so far. I think they play off a little too much sometimes, but I think it's also the younger corners afraid of getting beaten over the top. So they'd rather close on the ball than be in an all-out sprint going backwards. But be interesting. Jalen Carter missing in the middle is going to be huge, but that's where these guys got to step up. And interested and looking forward to seeing Milton Williams more during this game.
Yeah.
As an absolute monster. I know he's one of Carrington's favorites, and rightfully so. Looking forward to seeing Ojomo. I'm not looking forward to seeing Contavia Street in there at all. But
yeah,
seeing Big Fletch celebrate last night, the back looks good, and I'm sure he could have played if it was any other time besides Week 5.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
having him and Jordan Davis in there is going to be a good thing because Davis is going to suck up that double team, and it's going to leave them back 1-on-1. And Zach Wilson is known for holding on to the football, so hopefully Sweat can keep eating like he has been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And that's a great thing that how he's done. He's built such great depth along this defensive line to where if you do have like your main guy go out, you have two very good players stepping up in that person's spot. So you may not have your Jalen Carter, but you have Milton Williams coming in, you have Jordan Davis still coming in, you have Fletcher Cox coming in. Hey, by the way, now we can flip Brandon Graham inside again. Still have Connor Reddick outside. So it's a complete nightmare for offensive coordinators. We're just trying to get protection calls in.
And the Jets had just lost their tackle, and now this last week they lost Vera Tucker, who's inarguably their best offensive lineman at guard. And so Carter being out is a huge thing because I think we all expected him to be very good. A guy who is a kind of a blue chip recruit all his entire life. But for him to take that next step so early and really start showing himself as a top 5, top 3 defensive tackle, which, at me all you want, I think he's a top 3 defensive tackle right now. And should be playing consistently, make as many mistakes as you can before we're in the playoffs. And to have him missing is going to be a huge blow, despite the depth, because he is that level of player. But to your point, Matt, like we have plenty of people that can step into that rotation. They're missing 2 key offensive linemen. Their offensive line wasn't that good to begin with. Even their bookend tackle is having a resurgent season, Becton, and they thought they'd cut him. But you're talking a guy who's like 6'7", 380 pounds or 368 pounds or something. He is as big as Mulata, but nowhere near, the athleticism, nowhere near the speed. And you have a Hassan Reddick going up against him, and you have a Josh Sweat going up against him. He's going to have some troubles, and he's gonna feel it. Because he's going to be on an island. They're not going to be able to afford to double team Hassan Reddick. Don't chip him with a tight end. That's my advice.
Yeah, ask Brock Purdy all about that.
All right. Well, for those of you that are tuned in, comment line is definitely open. If you want to ask us some questions, and take us off topic as we typically like to go and do, definitely get in there and hit us up with some questions, any comments or concerns that you guys have. And with that, we'll go ahead and roll into our first segment. Hit them high, hit them low.
It was brought to you by Diet Smoke. They make the best Delta 8 gummies, and our friends over there at Delta, they will definitely take care of you if you call up and get an order. Use the promo code below. Let's talk about the game, fellas, and let's talk about what this point spread is, because right now the Eagles are favored by a comfortable 7, and the over-under on this is 41 points. Now, do you guys think that that's a good line, or do you think like that's fair? Or would you expect it to be higher? Because I kind of expected a little higher.
Yeah, I expected a little higher, especially since the standard is home. The home team normally gets about 3 points coming in, so that'd give the Eagles about a 4-point favorite right now. So I definitely think I thought it would have been in like the Commanders range that we had. I think it was like 8.5 and got up to 9.5. So I would expect for it to maybe change before Sunday.
What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a change, definitely, as the weekend draws on. But I mean, I was expecting it. I don't know. I was actually expecting it to be higher.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting it to only be 7. I think that I have to go back and look because I'm not sure what the line was when they played the Chiefs. But I'm pretty sure that line was pretty big for the Chiefs Jets game, and I think that right now the Eagles are playing a whole lot better than the Chiefs are. So to see the line that low is kind of shocking. I think I'm wondering if maybe the Jalen Carter and Darius Slay thing being with both of them being out, if it's adjusted this line ever so slightly.
Yeah.
But
And
I easily take the over with the over 7 points without question at this point in time.
Yeah,
yeah, and
the Chiefs Jets were at 7.5 is what that
Really?
line. Yeah, which is very surprising, and at 41.5 points.
so something to keep in mind to remember is they're taking into account the running attack of the Jets, right? Being a top 15, they're 12th in rushing attack, but this is the second lowest over under in the entire NFL for the week. So that really shocked me. But I think they're kind of counting on ball control. They're saying Philly do a lot of ball control style, but I think this is a bit of a misread because even though they've only surrendered over 23 points, being the Jets, one time this season, which is very impressive.
Mhm.
I really truly think that they're without the offensive line falling apart. They have not seen a pass rush even from Kansas City like this. I think they're really misrepresenting the style. I think the Eagles are looking at the ball control as a bit of a keep together. When times are rough or stuff's kind of not going your way, and in the second halves of games. Yes, go Birds. And
Star
so
Wars
for
99,
me,
go
it's
Eagles.
it's like I think it's sort of a misread, and I think being the over under is 41. I would probably take the over on that in my sleep, and I would have expected it to be higher, but their defense
Yeah,
has been really good, man. I mean, at home they're only 18 points a game, and that includes Kansas City and Buffalo. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
and
pick up the Buffalo game with being a division opponent because those things are just crapshoots coming in. But
right.
also, DJ Reader was ruled out. Their other top corner was ruled out with a concussion for the second
Oh, so
straight
he
game.
is out.
He is
Okay.
out. So I mean that opens up a lot, and I'm probably going to put some money on.
Ooh, that's 2 weeks in a row, isn't it?
Yeah, take that 7 tonight. So because I think it is going to change. So I mean, you're probably going to have Sauce probably going to follow AJ Brown around. Is I'm assuming is what he's going to want to do. And so I would look, you know, whatever the over is for Devontae Smith's yards, especially after last week. Jalen seems to like to get his guys, even though Smith had the target, he didn't have the receptions, and he likes
Right.
to feed his guys. So I would look for whatever his receiving yards is. I would definitely take it over on that one because I'm sure it's probably around 65. I haven't looked, but I'm just assuming.
can Nicky C play safety? Because if he can, I'd take a shot at it, a swing,
Yeah,
if you will.
Yeah,
yeah.
Um, I think we're going to come out and score some points. I think that this is, like you said, a division game. I did not know that corner was out again. It's like 2 or 3 weeks in a row
That's
now.
2 weeks in a row. Yeah, so that's like I'm wondering how bad he actually fucked himself up if to be in concussion protocol for that long.
he must have. Yeah, he must have wrecked himself on that one.
And I'm really hoping that the Jets, didn't have enough time, as most teams tend to do before the Eagles, to figure out that their starting running back is Brees Hall, and I'd much rather them trot out the ghost of Dalvin Cook, to go out there and get some repetitions. But he's really been cooking. Hall's been cooking, man, and getting those lanes. He showed up in the passing game a little bit, and that's the only thing that concerns me is that they play a very similar. They're like the C minus 49ers, when they're dishing it off to the tight ends, a lot of rollouts, a lot of quick things. But if you can get him to hold the ball, which is like his favorite pastime in the world, I think the Eagles will clear that over pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're in a good spot with that. And Eagles are already 12-0 against the Jets. They've never lost a game to the Jets. So is there any prop bets out there, Carrington, for whether or not the Eagles are going to maintain a perfect record against the Jets at all?
Nope, just the main over-unders. I haven't seen any specific prop bets. I don't think Vegas is looking to take a lot of action in the Jets pulling off some sort of miracle. And they've been
Yeah.
through the gauntlet, they being the Jets, with these divisional games, and they've been losing people week after week. I don't think they have a chance. I really don't. The only concern I have is that we've lost so many defensive players, that we lost a lot of that stuff, and we may be overlooking them a little bit with a difficult stretch coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, we're getting ready to roll into a pretty rough one for sure. And that's definitely a level of concern that I don't know we necessarily are ready for.
I picked the wrong week to stop drinking.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, I mean,
so I'll keep it going for you.
That's right. So yeah, because nobody likes a quitter.
yeah,
Like that one, Vontae Davis, right? Was not him. So interestingly enough, odds to win the Super Bowl from Vegas, San Fran is sitting at 650. And I thought that was kind of interesting. You'd think they'd be favored, but the Eagles are sitting at 750. The Chiefs are sitting at 700. Every other major metric outside of like BetMGM, FanDuel, and every other major metric statistically has the Eagles slated to win the NFC now. And that hasn't been the case all year, but it's just shifted this week. And I thought that was interesting that Vegas is still taking the 49ers. Maybe it's a wait till you see it and believe it type of thing. But I don't think the 49ers are a Brock Purdy away from winning the Super Bowl.
No.
And, they got Randy Gregory and, obviously shout out Nebraska, but I don't care about that right now. I hope he does terrible. But it's just one of those deals. I just don't see the Niners as coming in and just having enough to upset a healthy Eagles team. And I'm still standing by what we said to start this show, which was the only team that's going to beat the Eagles are the Eagles and injuries. And, there's a lot of
I'm almost on the cusp of saying just injuries because they're doing a lot of things right to the point where I don't necessarily know that I can blame the Eagles because they're any pro that they have on one side of the ball, there's a con on the other, and they counteract each other, and typically it really doesn't affect us in any way. So I'm almost going to say it's going to be the injury bug that ends up biting us in the ass, especially on that defensive side of the ball.
It's been so nice because we had so long of just square peg in a round hole and just keep trying to pound that motherfucker in as long as you can. And now it's like, all right, we're getting killed last week by Cooper Kupp and this little 5-yard slant route and going. So what they do in the second half? Completely took it away. He didn't have another catch till late in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And he was on pace to probably have a 200-yard game because I think he had 95 yards at halftime. I think is what he had. I think he ended up with like 106 or something like that. It was something minute, but they completely changed everything, and they've done it on offense too. They come out throwing the ball, it's not working. I was like, all right, DeAndre Swift, here's 20 carries, have at it. So it's been nice to whatever's not working, they kind of unfuck themselves.
And what do we say to Dallas Goedert? We say, welcome back, like welcome back, Dallas Goedert. Welcome back, Goddard. And
that was
he's
just
here,
ran
baby.
yeast over. I watched it a couple of times, and he just completely was not stopping.
He said, "My turn, my turn," and he went out there and he's snagging those balls, man. He really shredded that inside. But looking at the Niners and Eagles, sort of like from a prop bet situation, or like who's going to make the Super Bowl, they're scoring about 5 more points than the Eagles on average, the 49ers. But what I think is interesting, or my feeling is that the 49ers are at their peak right now. I don't think they're going to get any better than they are. Maybe on defense, you find maybe a little cohesion or something, but they've played into some fortunate situations. They're playing about as well as they can, and the Eagles have a lot to clean up. I mean, just a tremendous, especially when it comes to red zone conversions. And if you can turn even one of those field goals a game into a touchdown, you're already outscoring the Niners. We're already out yarding them. Believe it or not, we're out rushing them. And pass yards, they only have 6 more pass yards a game than we do. So while it might seem on paper like they've got it together and they're the steam ahead favorites, they're really not. We're one red zone conversion away a game. That's it from already outscoring them, and we outstat them in every other capacity.
This is a scary 5-0 team when they're not even close to playing their best football yet. They're playing very, very well a lot of the time. So,
Yep. I like
Yep.
teams that can
Yeah.
beat you in a number of ways.
yep. Because you can't take
Yeah,
away
I think-
both. You can't
Right,
take
and
away.
that-
You can't take away both facets of the game. It's impossible.
Yeah. So I mean, we saw. I think everybody's high on them because of, I think right now, especially after the pounding that they made on the Cowboys this last week. It highlighted. I think everybody was so high on the Cowboys defense because of the way that they played against four shitty teams up until that point. And then all of a sudden they played an offense that actually is productive, has the ability to be able to do some shit and actually be effective in moving the ball against that supposed godly defense that everybody's been praising across all the different media reports and everything else. And I think all it did was it ultimately ended up highlighting the fact that the Cowboys are actually really bad, and it's not necessarily that the 49ers are really good. It's just it pointed out a flaw in the logic of some of the sports reports that are out there, and that's ultimately what it ended up doing. So yeah, to your point, I think that they've reached. I don't want to say their peak because I don't know that they're quite there yet. But I anticipate that the 49ers are going to eventually end up slipping up, and it's going to be with somebody within their division. They'll end up taking a loss to the Rams or the Seahawks or somewhere along the line. Yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if Arizona ends up punching them in the mouth the way that Arizona ended up punching the Cowboys. It's one of them things that you could potentially see something happening in that regard. So, it's and that's going to ultimately be what's going to help the Eagles because I'm factoring a couple of losses into play as the season continues to progress. We got some teams in there that um, that I was anticipating that we were going to lose against. And now when I look at the Chiefs, I think that we actually potentially have ourselves a good opportunity to come out of this bye week and beat the Chiefs. They're not as complete as I thought that they were going to be. And this is something that's going to benefit the Eagles as long as they maintain the status, of progressing each week because it seems like every week they're slowly getting to that point. And it kind of actually makes me wonder after Jalen Hurts' performance this past week, did it affect anything on his line for MVP? Because it this was probably the most complete game, and this was the first emergence of and I've been saying it for fucking weeks. Let Jalen do Jalen, and they let him do it, and you saw how effective he ultimately ended up being against these guys.
I'm
And-
still astonished that he was surrounded by 4 Rams players on a third down and ran 9 more yards for a first down. Like I saw a still photo of it, and it's like, can you believe Jalen Hurts got a first down after this? I'm like,
No.
And he broke one tackle. It's like nobody wanted to tackle the guy. They just kind of ran in and thought he was going to slide, and he just shouldered down and ran through a tackle, fell forward for another 5 yards. And I'm like, there we go. It's such a dangerous thing because when he rolls out a lot of the times, he doesn't kick it into high gear all the time. And in that game yesterday, he was kicking it into high gear from the get go. And it's not saying that he's being lazy or anything. I think he is looking to throw the ball first, so he's not taking as many hits. We've said it before. I think that Chicago game last year scared the shit out of him when he missed 2 games because he thought he was done for the season. I think he was like, okay, like I can't be having these, 300-pound guys laying on top of me, going into the dirt. So he definitely is looking to. It does talk about Jalen Card, absolutely. So I think he is definitely looking to, throw first and run later. But if it's there, he's definitely going to take his, and I'm absolutely okay with it.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the play styles we were talking about too, that they're taking what the defense is giving them, and it's really such a weird, overused phrase. but the Eagles are actually doing that. And there's plenty of things you can clean up as far as like consistency, types of plays to call that are working when you're just shoving a square peg in a round hole. But Jalen taking those yards is because they were there. Now, that Bryce Harper photo was cold. Oof, boy, that was cold. But when I saw the still frame of that Jalen Hurts run, I was like,
Yeah.
how did he have the strength to do that and to keep his balance and his strength? And it looked like he was barely absorbing the hits. I mean, it was pretty remarkable at a very crucial point in the game, too. It seemed like he came up with a big play. He had the answer. So to your point, Tommy, what did that adjust for MVP odds? Believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes jumped 350 points and is now the front runner, even though,
I saw it earlier and I was like, there's no way that this is possibly it's going just based off name at this point.
Well, I have nothing but respect for Patrick Mahomes. I know that's not what you're saying. I know it's not what you guys are saying, but like looking at the turnover ratio that he has, if it's not to Travis Kelce, it is broken in Kansas City right now, and they're still 5-1. They're kind of in a similar boat where their offense is much worse, yet they're still progressing and they're still doing a really good job. Tua is sitting second at 470, and it only bumped Hurts up 90 points to 660. So he's still a comfortable 260 behind Mahomes. And I don't know what he would have had to have done. I mean, he played really out of his mind, I thought. Protected the ball reasonably well and came up with the solution. He was the MVP. He was the difference maker. Whereas I feel like Kansas City would have comfortably won with anybody at quarterback. And again, no slight on Mahomes, but I think, given who they were playing and how awful they were playing, I really think Kansas City would have won with anybody except for Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts at this point could throw for 700 yards, 16 touchdowns, and no picks, and it still won't be enough to get him in like a front runner spot. Not that it matters, but it's just like you can't look at these two playing football and say that they're on the same level at this week. Like I know career-wise, Patrick Mahomes is up here. That's absolutely, but this isn't the MVP for career. It's the MVP for 2023 season, and I don't know. One team at 5-1, squeaking by some teams. They barely beat a bad Denver team last night. Like barely beat them.
And then they barely lost to they barely beat the Jets. And I mean, I don't know if that says a lot about the Jets or a little about the Chiefs. And that's what
I think we're a little of both on that one.
Yeah.
I mean their defense is not to be, nothing to turn your nose at, right? I wish we had several of their secondary members, for our team.
Yeah.
And, we would talk about a super team, but on that note too, so one of the weirder bets I like to see are the stuff where they're like the odds to make a trade, right? And Howie Roseman is plus 600 to make a trade. And I'm like, I mean, that's going to happen. It's not only not happened at deadline twice in the last 7 or 8 years. And I looked at, I thought I'd ask you guys who you thought would be the most likely candidate. Like, I think the lowest hanging fruit would be Jeremy Chin. Seen a lot of reports that he's being floated out there as sort of a Jack Driscoll or a Quez Watkins and a third or a fourth for, Jeremy Chin, who can play a kind of that super slot, safety. He plays a lot of roles. What do you think?
Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, also, Chin is the one. And actually, Top Shelf Sports Talk just brought up. Did y'all hear Asante Samuel Jr.?
Yeah.
That's another one I've heard floated. And then there's obviously the one who's hurt out in San Francisco that we've been talking, or not San Francisco, the one that we've been talking about for a while.
Buda Baker.
Yeah, Buda. Yeah. I mean, he's another option that we've obviously kicked around, but how he's going to do what Howie does. He's going to try and figure this out in some way where it's not going to hurt the pocketbook either. And I think that's ultimately what it boils down to is, can he get somebody in here that's going to make an impact on this team and not hurt us in the wallet in the long run, and that's it's what he does best. And he'll pay. There's going to be renegotiating of contracts and everything else to fucking make it happen. So I'm fine with whoever. Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, another emergence of another Samuel on this team would be fucking.
As long as he can tackle better than his father, we're good.
Yeah, right. But Chin is the most intriguing.
I like Asante Samuel Jr., and he's cheap. He fits that mold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could also see, as much as we know we want a safety and everything else, I can see how he go on offense as well and really solidifying the slot. There's a big name I keep hearing this week. We're actually playing him, Miracle Hardman. Proven other wide receiver to give them, 3 really good receivers, and they were talking about, possibly, a pick and what I see here. Yeah, Quez and Driscoll for Miracle Hardman and another pick coming in. I heard his name. I've heard Hunter Renfro's name. Coming out of Vegas, if Vegas keeps going the way that they're going. So
you heard that same name too.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, because I think you could get a day 3 swap or day 2 swap for for Hunter Renfro, who's a very good receiver in his own right. Doesn't drop many passes, runs crisp routes. He's just a baller. He's an absolute gamer. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes on the other side to flip it. But if he's going to make a big splash, it's going to be this year, because we have so much cap room that's coming off the books, and there's so much cap room for next year that I can see him trading for a Buda Baker and then signing him to a 4-year deal. On top of this.
I think he's looking for the long-term goal, and not necessarily the one just to get us over the hump just this year. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to. And that's why, I think Chin will be. Is Chin on? He's finishing up his rookie contract, right?
Yep. And to your point, Tommy,
they're gonna fucking dump him. It's just a matter of, I think, where is what it boils down to. I think we're not the only ones, I think, that have asked. I thought I had seen a report about Kansas City was looking at him too.
I'm sure.
Kansas City or
and Buda will have 2 more years after this year. He's signed through 2025. But that won't deter Howie from signing him, or how he could say scrap that whole deal once he gets here and then re-sign him to a 5-year deal after this. You know what I mean? He's still a young player, and he's a top 3 safety when he's playing. He plays over the top. He plays in the box. He plays everywhere, and they love that kind of player, having him back there with Ed Reed Blankenship for years to come. Because we got Reed on a cheap deal for the next couple of years. He's undrafted free agent last year, so he is super cheap for as well as he's playing.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, Tommy, it's going to be the type of player that fits right now. And even though you have a lot of cap space, carrying that over, preparing for extensions is important. Jeremy Chin, to me, is not only, he'll go back there for sure. And what a hate relationship that is. But he nothing like going back to your ex, I guess. But he but Jeremy Chin, he's on such a cheap deal. That's where Asante Samuel Jr. to me is the most attractive, because he doesn't necessarily fit the biggest need. I know he's really good, but an undersized corner, he is coming up on a contract, also in a contract year, and he's excellent. I think he would be a good building block piece, but I feel like we have enough building block corners currently. What we need desperately is a safety. And I wouldn't overlook, it just depends what they want to spend. If he's looking to maintain cap space, then Jeremy Chin is the guy, hand over fist, easy peasy, go and get him. Quez Watkins in a third, even throw Driscoll in there, who's a good player, and I like him, but he's fallen out of rotation, especially with Fred Johnson stepping up.
He's not there. It's just
all these other guys, and now Purge playing the way that he is. So it's.
Yeah,
and you give Quez Watkins a chance to maybe go out there and show he can drop balls in Carolina too, and so that's good. But for me, like, yeah, see ya. Don't let the door hit you. He wouldn't, because if the door were to the left, he would run to the right. So no
That
fear there.
motherfucker, man, that just still pisses me off. It's the
Oh,
only guy I've ever seen
I'm at
run
peace
into a
with it.
tackle.
Yeah, fuck.
The other still photo I saw was both corners being blocked. And it was like, can you believe Quez lost the yard on this play? I'm like,
How?
it still
He's
blows
so
my mind.
fast.
He literally just had to run straight, and he gains 8 yards.
Star Wars 99. Topper reminds me of Doug Peterson. All right, Star Wars 99. Check us out here in the next 45 minutes. Me and Rachel will be going on talking about the Phillies and the NLCS upcoming series. So Star Wars 99, definitely check us out on that. We'll discuss that stuff in a little bit. Definitely check in on that. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. To me, the most obvious one, or the least obvious one that maybe people aren't thinking, is Justin Simmons, because he's locked up for a couple more years, and I would even go for a twofer, believe it or not, if you can offload enough players and get Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons and do the thing that you want to do, or go get a Justin Simmons and trade for Jeremy Chin as well. And make sure that you have your slot locked up. He's also plays a lot at linebacker. He's very Malcolm Jenkins-esque, obviously not as mobile in the backfield, but if you had a Jeremy Chin locked in at his deal, which is very reasonably priced, and you just say no big deal. Like, we wasted a 4th round pick on Jannard Avery. We can't go dump a 3rd to solve our safety issues. We can't go get Justin Simmons, who might take a 2nd or something. And you talk about rolling Reed Blankenship out there, Justin Simmons, and then Jeremy Chin as your box safety. I mean, what problems do you have? I'm sleeping great at night.
One more name I'll throw out there before we can move on or whatever we got to do. I remember
we gotta get into
in the off season before the draft, before we ended up getting Jalen Carter, but Jeffrey Simmons from the Titans, the defensive tackle, young defensive tackle, was an absolute monster. I could see them grabbing him as well. I mean, he's going to be a high price player. He's going to be a high profile player, but you're not going to have Fletch next year, most likely.
Right. So that's what I was just going to say to you. We offload one of the defensive linemen that we already have to potentially pick up somebody that's a little bit younger.
Very well could be, but with the amount of draft picks we have next year and the rebuilding that the Titans are doing, they could, maybe take, a second round pick and, another defensive tackle we have to just get that money off their books coming in.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we delved into a lot there. So we're actually going to go ahead and break down the offense a little bit for the upcoming Sunday matchup, and also kind of do a little bit of a recap on what we saw last Sunday.
Trying to stop a 4th and 26 and in essence take over. Plenty of time. Down the middle, it's Mitchell. Where will they spot him? They're going to get forward progress and a 1st down.
Matt, why don't you tell us about 4th and season there, bud?
What you got?
Why don't you tell us about 4th and season there?
I can't right now. Hold on a second. Sorry.
No, you're good. All right, so 4th and Season is brought to you by Righteous Felon. Go to righteousfelon.com. Use promo code OCSN for 15% off the best beef jerky around. Any orders over $50 get you free shipping on that beef jerky. All right, Carrington. So we saw, I think, the emergence of Jalen being Jalen last Sunday. Are we anticipating that we are going to see much of the same this upcoming Sunday?
Yeah, I think the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, and they're saying, all right, you're a horse out of the stable, whatever mixed metaphor you want to use. And I think that they're going to let Jalen Hurts do what he does best. Really just get everything kosher. Make sure everything's nice and set up for him, and just utilize his general playmaking ability, whether that be dumping it off to screens or kind of getting Dallas Goedert locked in the game as well.
All right. Well, we'll wait until Matt comes back to pull up the comment, but it's definitely something that'll need to get talked about because, I definitely hear that one's a stumper too, Carrington. So So, Top Shelf Sports Talk checked in. Says, I think so too. Says, I think so too. I don't want them to force the ball to Smitty, which it's a good point. Um,
Why not?
yeah, but at the same time, I think that we're going to see DeAndre Swift have another big one run game wise. I think this is going to be another big, probably over 150 yards rushing for him alone. So I think that we're going to see that too, and that's going to open up the passing game a little bit more. Well, since Matt's back,
Yeah, sorry about that.
no, you're good, bud. Apparently, this was a stumper on one of the other sports shows that's out there. So the Jets utilize a one gap defensive style that counts on individual mashups. What personnel groupings and formation can the Birds utilize to take advantage of it?
That's tough. It's tough. That's a hard one. I would say probably 11 and 12 personnel. Loading up 12 personnel is a really effective way to counter Robert Sala's defense and what he wants to do. Because you either have to control the momentum of the game or you have to be able to adapt to it. But a very easy way to do that is to load up with tight ends. And maybe you have a Rashad Penny or somebody who wants to get about 15 carries running straight forward into nothingness. But the Eagles have one of the best counters to that, which is not only Dallas Goedert but Jack Stoll, who fills that 12 personnel so well that he can block, and you kind of have the force of, you saw Goddard block and release a couple times, and that's a really good way to counter that. Good question. Probably beautiful woman, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think Calcaterra could play into that as well. He's actually a little bit more effective at blocking too. So lining him up and using him in a little bit more of a in that regard would be a good one to definitely use. Matt, what you got?
I'm up there right now. No, it's great to see because Goddard was never known as a good blocker. That's why they kept Zach Ertz on, because Zach Ertz was a phenomenal blocker coming in. So, I mean, he obviously learned something to put it into this year because he is a phenomenal blocker for the first 5 weeks. And then you have Stoll and Calcaterra come in. So, having those guys come in and be able to throw blocks, be able to throw chips, being able to pull on time and be able to, to put a body on a lineman coming in, even though they might not plan him, just get in his way, put a body on him. And there was a run last week that Swift had, and it showed Goddard pulling and hitting the gap and just taking out the linebacker and getting, it was just a small little thing. And he planted his ass too. So it was nice seeing him to cut up there and get through, be going in. So.
Oh, this is good.
I think another good way to do that is to go like shotgun single back formation, because spreading out the defense, to your point, Top Shelf was saying, like, spread the ball out. And I'm with you. Like, you never want to force the ball to anybody, but A.J. Brown or Devonta is going to be open 50% of the time, most likely, right? It's very unlikely, unless they're absolutely selling out with both safeties over top, that neither of them are going to have, an open, lane to catch the ball. But by spreading the team out too, and you go single back, I think that's a good way to defeat the Jets defense too, because you force them out of what they want to do best, and you go counterintuitive to what you think that the Eagles are going to do, which is grind the ball. And they're talking about giving Jalen Hurts 11 kisses, which is the very strangest way I've ever heard any coach talk about another player. And I met
Woody 11 kisses during a brotherly shove or tush push makes it even a little weirder.
Yeah,
very strange. How do you counter a tush push? 11 kisses.
11 kisses. But
you sure about that?
Yeah. So you guys already brought up DJ Reed being out, which is going to prove be beneficial to the Eagles in a way. But it also looks like Brandon Eccles, one of their other cornerbacks, sat out of practice today, and also Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner sat out with illness. but that's three of their cornerbacks in their depth chart that are either not practicing or not playing at all because we already know DJ Reed's already ruled out for the game on Sunday. We could have a big game from a lot of different people. It might be a fucking field day. Zacchaeus, I hope
Bring him
I
on.
hope they utilize Zacchaeus a little bit more this game and let him. Let's see what kind of work this slot guy can do against somebody that's a team that's probably not going to have a slot corner or at least a decent slot corner playing or covering down.
Well, you know what they say about Quez Watkins? Fool me 66 times, I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, it's rough, dude. He's
Lead him away from water and he'd drown.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
I think after he gets the ball, it's like, what's the least amount of stuff that I can accomplish within a 4-yard area? Because he does that very well.
That's my morning routine, basically.
You're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That guy wakes up in the morning and pisses on his feet. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Zacchaeus, and I can also see. I mean, they're probably going to have C.J. Mosley on Dallas Goedert, so I don't know how effective Goedert's going to be in the receiving game because Mosley's been playing very well and probably should have had 3 interceptions in one night had the Chiefs not gotten these flags after the interceptions were caught. But it's a different story. But he is a good cover corner. He's been in the league for 67 years, so I mean it's always good. He knows what he's doing, but having DJ Reader out, it could have a big impact for Devontae Smith. And like they said, they might not want to force feed him to him, but he's open. I'll take him 10 out of 10 times if he has a step on anybody. So
if both corners, if all those guys like Sauce doesn't play, he's there, Jalen Carter, then we better be throwing the ball unless we're up just an abysmal amount, off of defensive touchdowns or special teams, big run breaks, something. Again, like you said, could be a lot of different scenarios. They better be pounding that ball into the receiver's hands as much as they possibly can if it's anything close to a game, because that secondary is decimated. I mean, it is really beat up. It's rough.
So Quincy asks, you always talk about MVP. Who do we need to step it up? Who do we need to step it up to avoid being a least valuable player?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I think James Bradbury, he had a really rough one against that Puka where the ball was picture perfect. I don't think anyone was defending that, but still and yet it feels sort of like a target's on his back without Slay being out, Quincy. So that's a good question, kiddo. I think that James Bradbury would be my pick, that he really needs to step it up and show that he can be that lockdown guy that, they essentially sacrificed Gardner Johnson for.
Yeah.
trying to think.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to say Hassan Reddick. Now I think we're starting to see him come back into his prior self from last year. He had a pretty solid game last week, and I think it kind of started the week before. I think he had broken off on one the week before. So I think we're starting to see the emergence of him, but he's left a lot to be desired up until this point. So I think that he's kind of my at the moment least valuable player, or to avoid being least valuable player.
Yeah, my least valuable player is out this week because I was going to say Slay. On the other side of that, I feel like he's been getting picked on a lot. He's looking to show his age with speed this year. Like he seems to be a step behind. So
he does. Agreed.
It would be him if he was playing. And this guy's been the guy I'm going to say has been playing phenomenal. I'm not going to say that he hasn't been, but I want to see Josh Sweat get home more. He has all the pressures and the quarterback hits in the world, which is amazing, and it helps out a ton in all other facets. But I would love to see him start cashing in on some of those sacks. And it's not his fault, they're getting the ball out quickly and everything else. But I would love to see him start getting out, especially since their offensive line is kind of battling some injuries and just not being very good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and pick who we think our MVP of the offense is going to be this week. Carrington, why don't you go ahead and start it off first? Who do you think the MVP of the Eagles offense is going to be?
I'm just going to assume Jalen Hurts is off the table because I think he's always pretty much the centerpiece. But I would say Devonta Smith, and I don't think they're going to force feed it to him. I think that even if Sauce plays, to your point, Matt, he's probably going to shadow A.J. Brown, and I think Devonta is going to absolutely have a day. They're going to be watching tape. They're really thick in the front seven personnel. They're really good at stopping tight ends statistically. If you're not named Kelsey, of course, but few people are. And some about the name, I think Devonta is going to have a field day, like something in the range of like 150 plus yards, like really go off, and he might even be done by half.
I would take it. Tommy, who you got?
I'm gonna go. What running back do I want to take? Is it going to be Gainwell or is it going to be Swifty? I'm going to say DeAndre Swift. He's going up against the number 29 rush defense in the NFL at the moment, and we know what this offensive line is capable of. We know that these guys can push people around, and the way that these guys are going to play against this one gap defensive style is going to be super effective, and it's going to open up a lot of running lanes for him. I think that they're going to be pushing the nose guard and the nose tackle all over the place and basically dictating where the hole is going to be opening up at, and DeAndre is just going to have a fucking day. So I'm anticipating DeAndre at least going over 150 yards rushing easily, if not more. Yeah, I think this is going to be another massive run day for us. So, Matt, what you got?
Yeah, without taking, because I was going to say the entire Eagles offensive line, but I feel like that's a super broad thing. I just think they're going to have a very easy time moving the ball, whether it's through the air or on the ground. Just with the injuries that are out with the Jets, with Reed being out, and the run defense is just not very good. But I will take Reed Blankenship. I think he's going to force another turnover. I think he's going to get an
offensive side.
Sorry, yeah.
We go deep on the other. We go on the other side.
Damn it, Matt.
With being up since 3 o'clock and going to bed at 1 a.m. does. Sheesh. Fucking nerd. And yeah, I'm going to stick with the Eagles' offensive line. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be working from a very clean pocket most of the game, unless he forces himself into trouble.
Jeff Stellan's the fucking MVP of the offense.
I mean, he really is. Look at Seta stepping in and probably going to get paid a lot of money by probably another team here soon.
Yeah, he will be.
What I mean?
I think that's a good answer for Quincy's question, though. For real, though, to avoid being the least valuable player, I think Sua Opeta and probably makes the most sense in that, because our offensive line is just stupid, and so he's obviously the weak link. You got Quinn and Williams, right? Lining up. It's a tough.
You would think that, but he was super effective. Fucking against Donald, dude. I don't know that you could even make the argument that he's the least valuable player, because he stepped up big. I mean, Darnold did not get to Jalen Hurts at all.
Aaron Donald, remains of the Eagles being the only team that he doesn't have a sack against besides his own, pretty much. And
it's just fucking insane. They all did very well.
Yeah. If you weren't a watcher of football, but you know who Aaron Donald was, you would have thought that he was off that day. Like, they did a very, very good job. And I'll give that to Jason Kelsey calling out his guys, holding his own, Landon Dickerson, and Sua Opeta.
Yeah.
Imagine coming in for like one of your first starts ever. And by the way, you got to face one of probably the greatest defensive linemen in NFL history. And it's like, oh, by the way,
Amazing.
here you go. And then he's like, all right. And you don't hear Aaron Donald's name. It was absolutely
Not
insane
what's
on how well that he played. Because in preseason, I didn't want Sua Opeta anywhere near playing this because he played so poorly in the preseason. I
exactly.
guess he just needed to play against better talent and show off what he's got because he's played
Unbelievable.
amazing, especially for I believe he was an undrafted free agent as well.
Yep.
He was.
They're just finding these guys left and right, and I don't know how, but
Stoutland, you baby.
yeah, yeah,
Howie and Stoutland, fucking geniuses.
Lifetime contract.
Yep.
I'm down for it.
Write your number here.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and roll into nickels and dimes and break down our defense a little bit. All right, Nickels and Dimes is brought to you by Warlord Men's Grooming Essentials. Visit warlordbeardoil.com. Use promo code OCSN15 for 15% off your beard products. All right, so defense.
Oh, I got an MVP.
Yeah, well, we know who your MVP is. Read blanket chip. So they're getting ready to go up against a Jets offense that's ranked number 27th overall, and they are 32nd in passing. However, they're going up against an Eagles defense that's actually ranked higher than I was anticipating in regards to passing. They are ranked 6th overall in passing defense. So Eagles are actually fairly high in regards to defense and where they shake out in regards to rankings amongst the NFL teams at the moment. And I think this was prior to yesterday. So, they're actually doing fairly well. But going up against the Zach Wilson team that has actually played fairly well against some pretty good competition, and they play like shit against really bad teams. So kind of shocking, if you will. They held their own against the Chiefs, and had it not been for a missed holding call that I think a fucking blind man probably could have gotten, the Jets arguably probably would have beat the Kansas City Chiefs and caused a massive upset. And then you go a little bit deeper, and they almost won. Was that last night, Matt? You said?
Yeah. Yep.
Look, they almost won.
19-8, I think the final score was. It was something weird.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is a the Jets are. We've kind of touched on this already. This could be one of them sleeper games. To our point with Darius Slay being out, Jalen Carter's not in the lineup. We're getting ready to roll out some of the other guys on our defensive line, which are not necessarily a concern of mine. It's the concern in the secondary that are raising questions. So what's your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's definitely like I said, we stated before with them playing the Dolphins the week after this on a Sunday night game, and they get to unveil, the beautiful Kelly green jerseys in front of the world. It's a sneaky game. Zach Wilson has played a lot better the last 2 games, just taking care of the football. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he still doesn't scare me, but the Jets have players on offense. They have Breece Hall, they have Miracle Hardman, they have Garrett Wilson still, but their offensive line is terrible. Tight end's not very good. You don't think that he's going to grab 10 balls for 90 yards and be good with it. So I think they're going to be looking to try to run the football first. I don't think it's going to happen. Then it's just going to be pass happy time.
Yeah,
and that is tee off time for the Birds. So looking for that to be coming in. looking to get a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson, make him super uncomfortable back there, hit him a lot. So I don't know. Interested to see. Looking forward to it. I don't want them to overlook this game because it's Zach Wilson and the Jets.
Right.
You will lose very quickly in the NFL with that mindset.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think Morrow had a really good bounce back game. Not that he was horrendous the game before, but took a little bit of flack and deservedly so. But had a couple tackles for loss in the Rams game and has been really a steadying force. He and Cunningham both. And that's what you want out of your linebacking unit, just being steady forces. Leading the league and stopping the run. 60-ish yards a game and just kind of lining up, filling the gaps, making the plays that the defensive tackles and defensive ends are giving you. But I'd also like to see more, like you said, more finish the job. Like they had 4 sacks, like 6 or 7 quarterback hits against Stafford. But, and if somebody's going to hike the ball and pass it in 2 seconds, like you're probably not going to get there, unless you're a superhuman freak like Jalen Carter, who I think he got there in like 2.6 seconds on one of his sacks, just threw the guy. Oh, it's crazy. I mean, he just looked like an absolute mountain of a guy. And, that was without Fletcher Cox next to him, who's been having, as you guys have said, like, he just drank like from the fountain of youth. I don't know what he's doing, but my body needs to hear about it.
Yeah. I want to know too.
Every time I hear the name, I always think of El Kabong. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be just fine. It's just, the Dolphins are a high-powered offense that are going to we're going to have some secondary issues, and there's a lot of injury issues. Perhaps people are being rested, and this is a game that they would normally play, as you said earlier. But with the Dolphins matchup coming up, and it's such a high-profile game, probably the most high-profile game to date, for the whole season. And I think looking at that one and the 49ers, et cetera, like there could be, some looks ahead, going, okay, we're looking at Zach Wilson, maybe you're not, charting the improvement. But I have faith in Jalen Hurts being a steadying force, the faith that I didn't have in Wentz to be the level-headed, not about me person. And then through all these games, he's taken the opportunity to make the plays that are assigned to him. So I have a lot of faith we're going to throttle these guys.
Got to keep the main thing the main thing.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see contributions from a lot of different folks. Like we've already kind of touched on the fact that Darius Slay is not going to be playing, so you're going to see a rotation of Ricks, Goodrich, and probably you might even see Roby
out there too.
Right, you might see Roby shift out. I mean, there's potential for a lot of different ways that this could go. Bless you.
Thank you.
And it's last week's game. It was the first game that Cunningham did not come out of that. They had come out of it with double-digit tackles. So I was kind of shocked to see that. But at the same time, there was contributions from a lot of other players. Reed Blankenship was back, and he had a huge game again, and was just literally tattooing people all over the place. But it's we're going to see the emergence of a lot of different people, and with Justin Evans being out, who is another one that we really didn't get to talk about. We got another gap in that safety. In the safety realm. Now, I'm not saying that Justin Evans was the second coming of Jesus Christ or Brian Dawkins. That's the same thing. Never mind. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
Don't stand next to me.
He was more effective than the other two. Now I think we're gonna end up seeing Sidney Brown. Well, no, Is Sidney Brown going to be back?
Yep.
I guess he would be, right? I mean, I think he's going to see a little bit more playing time.
Thank God.
Just hope. Yeah, I hope that this might be the one game where it might actually be a good opportunity for him to be out there and to get that opportunity. So You know, they got some potential, and they're looking at a really good matchup for some of these young kids to get the experience that they need. And I think that's what it ultimately boils down to. We're kind of prepping ourselves for what's to come, I think, at this point. So this one is not saying we need to check a box and just complete the game. We definitely need to go out there and play with some tenacity, but we can't we also can't throw everything we have at these guys, because I don't necessarily know that it's going to take that much. But yeah.
I mean, I think they have the good mix of these veterans that know that you can't overlook games like this because you lose them very quickly, just like we did with last year.
BG with the Commanders. Yeah.
And as good as they played last week offensively, Jason Kelsey was losing his mind on the sideline because they just were not playing well in the red zone, and it was pissing him off.
And he said it on the camera and Richie that on Wednesday night when he was talking about it.
Yeah, and that mentality of just never being satisfied and never being happy. Like, all right, cool, we won, 25-14. I think it was. The game wasn't as close as the score predicted with the yards and the time and everything. But it's like, we go back to, you start getting into these next 5 weeks that we're going to be in. The 25 points might not be enough. You're leaving 14 points out there and you're coming away with 6. You're going to lose by 3. And you're like, well, if we would have scored a touchdown here inside the 10-yard line when we had first and goal, instead of coming away with 3, there's the win. And, you can pile up losses very quickly with that against good teams. And right. I like that he was losing his mind with Stoutland, with Sirianni, with everybody. And it wasn't at them. It was just frustration going over just not playing well.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the 49ers graphic too, because the Eagles are better than them at absolutely everything except for 5 points a game scoring, right? And that's one singular possession. I'm not talking about mountain to Muhammad here,
right.
So to speak, given the current situation. But I I think that just getting one conversion is not too much to ask. And it's something that's fixable. And there's clearly, losing your starting guard, doing some stuff like that. But I think we're, even a running back wouldn't even be the worst investment for the Eagles as far as like a kind of a straight ahead pounder. I don't think, Gainwell had a really nice play and stuff, but like they don't have a ton of faith in that anybody but Swift, nor should they to this point. We haven't seen Boston Scott since he was concussed, right? So, but don't blink now. But I've been about as hard on Michael Clay, I think, than anybody. Being a special teams coordinator, I think he's the youngest in the NFL. But the Eagles, just by just about any metric, have the number 1 rated special teams unit in the entire NFL. And that's something to be proud of, considering the concerns that we had with injury after injury, people coming out. And that was a huge, I thought, oh, crap. You brought up the good point about a new holder. You have the best kicker in the NFL. I love Justin Tucker. He's got to be up there in the GOAT rankings, but I think we have the best kicker in a man, as long as he doesn't have to punt more than once or twice a game. He was like 1 for 46 yards or something like that, and 1 in the 20. And that'll do it. That'll do, man. That'll do. So number 1 special teams unit. So I always like to point out as soon as I know I'm wrong right away. And Michael Clay, I was just ripping that guy to shreds, and he has absolutely produced.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to say I was completely wrong about Britton Covey. He is statistically the number 1 punt returner in the NFL since last year. And it doesn't look like it, but then this year it comes out and it's like he just averages, it seems like every time he touches the ball, it's like 9 yards, 20 yards, 18 yards, 10 yards. He was constantly giving them good field position and solid returns coming in. And then, he breaks off a big one a couple weeks ago for 55 yards, I think that return was.
Yeah.
So, it's a great thing to have because we haven't had that probably since Brian Mitchell, way back when.
Woo!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good.
Oh, really? Besides Deshaun Jackson, who didn't do it.
I was going to say.
Who didn't do it often. I'm talking about every punt returner.
A specialized punt returner. Yeah.
It's probably been since Brian Mitchell, since we've had a solid one.
Yeah,
Like
I don't think you're wrong. I think that's probably about right.
And we had questions about safety, of course, but the biggest questions I think we all had were about special teams and the how the linebacking group's going to kind of come in, maybe the one safety spot, but we thought they could piecemeal it. Who would think that we were looking at it going red zone scoring and then corners, and kind of the entire secondary being a little bit open as the big weaknesses. I mean, special teams, I'm happy to say I don't even think about. Like, I'm just expecting of really big plays out of them and kind of looking forward to the defense, taking that next step, whether that be via trade, which I think is the only option, and maybe sending Mario Goodrich to Siberia, one of those two things, maybe both. I think that the Eagles have a lot to look forward to. They're not even close to playing their best football yet, and they're matching the front-running 49ers. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. I mean, defensively, they're in a great spot. It's just, I'm definitely surprised to see the rankings, but at the same time, we haven't played a really super dynamic offense yet. I mean, the Rams were there. Vikings. Justin Jefferson had kind of a day on us. I think that's so to see us ranked sixth in total defense as far as passing goes. I was a little shocked to see it. So, pleasantly surprised. It means that we aren't as bad off, maybe I guess as I thought we were. Or that we're doing a really good job of basically Desai is having doing a really good job of adjusting in the second half to to counteract whatever it is that these offenses are throwing at him, and basically shutting these guys down in the second half. And we saw him do it against Cooper Kupp. He shut down that slant route across the middle. Like it didn't happen, like you said, Matt. I don't think he had another catch that day till
it was late fourth quarter.
Late third, early fourth, I think it was, maybe even late fourth. Yeah. So I mean, it's they're doing a lot of things effectively. It's just I think we're being super critical, and I think we are still a piece away, and I think definitely we need to go out and get it. But they're holding their own. It's just I think the injury bug, if we continue to let this shake out, it's going to end up biting us in the ass. Because these guys are coming in and out a little too frequently for my liking.
And very similar to last year, I absolutely love how the Eagles are possessing the ball for huge chunks of time. I mean, they're absolutely killing the time of possession. And I think that's, kind of ratcheting up your defensive efficiency too, not just having, them have many opportunities to get the ball back and, taking a whole quarter out of the half, basically. And he does look like Chick-fil-A, actually.
He does a little bit, yeah.
And so I think just holding the ball is a great strategy. Ball control. Again, big Nebraska fan, and in the 90s, we used to run the option football and then dominate with defense. So just possess the ball as much as you could and not give them a chance to score is, one of the better strategies. But you can't do that against everybody. You're going to have teams that are able to spread you out and hit those. The Dolphins of the world are going to be, to me, the best litmus test of, is this Eagles team for real on defense? Is that pass rating legitimate, or do we still have a long ways to go? I think we're going to know in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to jump to next week. I think they're definitely going to have trouble with the speed they have, just like everybody does. I think it's ridiculous that they have. So I think that's where you're going to see this ball control come in. Of we're just going to run the football. And it wouldn't surprise me if I see DeAndre Swift with 25 carries and Gainwell with 10. Or if we even see Rashad Penny sighting. Like, I think they're just going to try to keep the ball out of their hands as much as possible.
Yeah.
Just completely snatch the soul out of Miami's defense of just like what is happening, because we're just getting bullied. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and roll into the last segment and give our predictions on who we think is going to, what the score of the game is going to be. We've already kind of given, well, actually, Carrington, who you got as your MVP on the defensive side of the ball? We already know what Matt's was.
What an idiot.
I'm going to say, man, that's really tough. Really tough to outdo Matt jumping the gun an hour early. So let me think.
Got to go with another offensive player.
Yeah, probably Jalen Hurts. I get no. I think on defense, man, really, really, really tough to say. I'm gonna say Josh Sweat is going to be the MVP. I think that Reddick's been coming on strong. Sweat started off great, but kind of tapered a little bit. They're going to use the most recent scouting report, which is going to be Reddick is the biggest issue they need to worry about since Fletcher's coming back from injury. And
Right.
Sweat's going to have a ton of opportunity to go up against a really large mountain-sized man. And he has very good bend, great flexibility. Same with Reddick. It really could be either of those two, but I'll go with Sweat.
Okay. Well, Fletcher Cox is coming back. I don't anticipate Fletcher Cox playing a whole lot. We'll probably rotate him out quite a bit. They don't want to probably overwork this too much. I'm going to say Nick Morrow is going to be the defensive MVP.
Like it.
I think that he has been kind of the shining star in that second level. Hassan Reddick didn't emerge up until probably about a week and a half ago. Cunningham's getting a lot of tackles, but Morrow has been he's all over the fucking field. He's able to drop back in coverage. He's been laying down some not great coverage, but decent. I mean, it's
Serviceable.
he's close.
Yeah.
But he's getting to the ball carrier when he's sent to blitz, and I think the fact that he's able to get home on some of these and really put a hurting on some of these quarterbacks, I think is a huge one. So I think that's going to end up being my pick. Is definitely Nicholas Morrow. So
Good one.
Hey, what do you guys real quick? Well, what do you think? Do you think N'Kobe Dean will get a lot of playing time, or what are we thinking? Like 30%? Where would
I
you
don't
put
even
it?
think
Just
he'll
quick
play that
percent.
much. I think they're going to ease him back in from that injury.
I think we're talking 10 plays here, maybe.
Yeah, and it's not a they don't want to play him. I just think they don't want him to go out there and then re-aggravate that thing and then be out for 6 weeks coming up. I think they're totally fine with having Cunningham and Morrow out there for the game. I could see him playing some to kind of get his feet underneath of him, so to say, but I could be completely wrong and watch him play the entire game. I have no idea.
Right. He'll be out there. He'll be out there for the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Go ahead, Tommy.
Let's go ahead and roll into cover 2. All right, so cover 2 is brought to you by Fanatics. Use the link below to buy all your Eagles gear and be suited up for the season. Also, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Twitter as well. We'll be posting. I got some links here for SeatGeek. It's a new sponsor for the network. You can, I think it was $20 off of the first ticket that you buy utilizing our link. So definitely check that out if you're looking to go to a sporting or even a music event. SeatGeek's definitely the way to go. They got decently priced tickets, and you can get them just for a little bit cheaper if it's your first time using them. So be sure to check that out as well. All right, Matt, what is your prediction for the game this week?
So I'm thinking that they will easily cover that 7-point spread. Even if it's not there, I'm going to go with a 31-13 or 31-13 game score. I think they're going to have ease moving the ball with just a struggling Jets defensive front, even though they have good corners coming in, but injuries aside, not going to be playing, missing a bunch of guys, and I think offensively they're going to have trouble moving the ball, even as well as Brees Hall's been playing. Having Garrett Wilson, but Zach Wilson being back there holding on to the ball, and they start getting 10+ points down, they're going to have to start slinging that thing downfield, and that's when just our defensive front is going to come into play and just wreak havoc.
Okay. Carrington, what you got?
Listen, man, I want to say like a high scoring game because they're paper thin, but I could see the Birds like getting up big and then because of the injuries, kind of packing it in for the day and sort of just trying to drain the clock out. So I'm going to say something like 27-3.
Okay. Yeah, Carrington, I think I'm with you, dude. I don't think that they cover the over under. Yeah, I don't see them getting up. Yeah, I don't see them getting all the way to the 40. What was it? You said it was 41. The hell was
Yeah, 41.
41? I don't see them getting 41. I'm kind of with you. I think that this is just going to be. I'm gonna go. I'll say 28-7. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I think that 7 points that they get is going to be garbage points at the end. I think that the Eagles dominate this game and really run away with this one, but not too much. I think that they're going to put up 4 touchdowns, and then you're going to see a lot of running the football and draining the clock at that point, and that's where you're going to see DeAndre get that over 150 for my MVP of the offense. So.
You guys
All right,
better
boys.
hope that Reed Blankenship doesn't start playing offense. I could be right on both sides.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys got any go backs or anything that we needed to cover down on before we wrap this up tonight?
That should pretty much covered everything. Just hoping the Eagles would be dancing on their own after this game and still be sitting on top of the NFC East. I'm not sure who the Cowboys are even playing this week. I totally forget, and nor do I care.
Who fucking cares?
So
Hey, come on, they them boys. Is that right? Did I do it?
You got it right. Good job.
They them.
I got a lot of interesting hate mail. A couple of interesting.
The Chargers. Justin Herbert might fucking put up a game on them and fucking win.
They are playing Chargers. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Birds of Words brought to you by Old City Sports. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Birds of the Word and Old City Sports. Also, check us out on Twitter at Birds of the Word 57. Also, check us out at our individual Twitter accounts. Like I said, we'll be starting up an Instagram here in the very near future, and also be getting in on the YouTube game as well. Kind of expand our reach here a little bit and get out to everyone. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and call it a night. We'll go ahead and probably do a post-game coverage after Sunday to discuss what we ended up seeing out of the Birds against the Jets and better prepare everyone for what we're getting ready to see with them going out in them Kelly Green jerseys against the Dolphins in Week 7. So with that, we're going to go ahead and close it out. All right. Good night, everybody.
Take it easy, guys.